Hey, welcome to the April 25th, 2024 Board of Selectmen meeting, or Select Board meeting. Come to order at 6 o'clock. Entertain a motion to approve the April 11th, 2024 Selectmen meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, okay. Public forum, it's an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the Board of Selectmen with any issue that is not on the agenda. State your name and tell us what you'd like to say.
I'm Gail Asmussen Spofford. I live in Kennebunk. I'm the vice chair of the RSU 21 Board of School of Board Directors, and I am the chair of the Finance Committee. So I welcome this opportunity, thank you, for speaking about the remaining 2 dates at which it would have some impact on the budget. There's an article coming out in the Kennebunk Post that might be misleading. She only mentions the ballot on June 11th. However, there's still an opportunity to interact with the board. On May 6th, the budget validation meeting will be held at Kennebunk Elementary School at 7 o'clock in the gymnasium. And there's still an opportunity for anyone who wants to interact with the board about the budget at that time. That's the meeting where we check in with our clerks, town clerks. We get a card to hold when we raise our hands, and there will be a couple of written ballots. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware. We still have the meeting on May 6th. If people need additional information or would like to find out more about the budget, they can go to rsu21.net. The main page that you come to has some additional facts about the budget and the makeup of the budget and what the warrant articles will look like on May 6th, which is dictated by state law. And also on the finance, if you go into the school board and then go to the finance committee, there are also opportunities there. We decided, because there seemed to be so many questions about the board, that we would put those questions and the answers online. So you should be able to find out quite a bit of information. And if you don't see the answer to your question, please, by all means, email the school board. That email will be sent to the person who can most adequately answer the question, because we do have several different departments.
Thank you. Would you repeat that link again, please?
rsu21.net.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
And
I
the date
appreciate
was May 6th?
May 6th, yes. It's a Monday. We're turning over our board meeting to the vote because we had a conflict of interest on our normal Tuesday, May date. The high school band director had already scheduled a performance, and we didn't want to interrupt a student activity.
Hey, thank you very much. Anybody else? Anybody in the audience?
3 people, no hands raised.
Okay. So we have to consider next item is to consider the following renewal liquor license submitted by Kennebunkport Resort Collection. All of these have been approved by the staff. I entertain a motion.
Did you want
Do you want to go through all of them?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll read them all. So the Cape Arundel Inn LLC located at 208 Ocean Avenue. The Boathouse at Kennebunkport LLC at 21 Ocean Avenue. Ivy One LLC doing business as the Clubhouse at Cape Arundel Inn located at 8 Old Fort Avenue. Hidden Pond LLC located at 354 Goose Rocks Road. The Kennebunkport Inn LLC located at 1 Dock Square. Lodge on the Cove LLC located at 29 South Main Street. And the Yachtsman Hospitality LLC at 57 Ocean Avenue, along with the final one, the Tides Beach Club LLC located at 930 Kings Highway.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye, okay. The next item is to consider a special amusement license for Sandy Pines Campground. And before we discuss that, we have a gentleman in the audience who would like to talk about it. He saw me before the meeting, and I said he would have an opportunity.
Hi, I'm Mike Dunley. I'm on Abenaki Way, which is the next street down south of Mills Road of the campground. So I wanted to voice some concerns that I have and that I've discussed amongst my neighbors about overly loud music coming from the campground. Not what might happen, but was already been happening even before they were applying for this permit. Not so much last year, it only happened a few times, but 2020, 21, 22, there was a number of occasions throughout the summer where they had what can only be described as over-the-top loud bass music blaring through the woods. I'm about 2,500 feet as the crow flies through thick, dense woods over ledge. And I could be on the backyard of my house, which is on the south side of Abenaki Way, and hear the bass in the screaming lyrics coming through the woods. So a few times we, call the police, register a noise ordinance. A few times people from my street have driven over there and asked them to turn it down. And I don't know whether it was on the particular bands or acts that they hired at that time, but it seems to me it was a consistent, repeated offense, if you will. So my concern going forward is if they have now a letter of the law to do this under a permit, what are we going to hear over there on a regular basis? It just seems to me that as far away as we are through dense woods, if we're hearing that loud bass, and I'm not talking just being able to detect that, yes, there's music. This was obnoxiously loud. So it would seem to me that if I can hear that a half mile away, that's in direct violation of the way the special amusement permit is written with unnecessary and unusually loud. And I just think it's unnecessary. It's just simply too loud. And unfortunately, this sort of becomes a war of attrition because these places can play the music and it gets loud, and how many times are we willing to bother the police with it or drive over there and complain? And inevitably, it just becomes a small group of people deciding for everybody else what you're going to hear that afternoon or that night, and you don't really have a say in the matter. So that's our concern. It's not about what might happen going forward. It's about what we've already observed and heard, which is not good. And I would also say that, it's a wonderful business. They've done a great job in there, and I wouldn't want to take money out of everyone's top line or bottom line, but it just seems totally inconsistent with what their business is. If you look at their website, the very first sentence in the very first paragraph uses the word tranquil and quiet and, wind blowing through the trees. And it is a wonderful business, and there are good neighbors other than this. So it seems totally inconsistent to me why a business that sells themselves on quiet, rural, rustic camping, and they sell out, why they need to have amplified music blaring through the woods. It just seems like something that's more, fitting for Salisbury Beach or Hampton Beach or Old Orchard Beach. And I'm not sure anybody in that area of town, moved out there in the woods to, thinking they were going to hear that kind of music. So, if they get a permit and they want to have acoustic music by the pool, fine. That's, I don't think anybody has a complaint. But if they have the same level of amplification, which they've demonstrated a number of times over the previous 4 years, it seems to me it's simply too loud. Again, I'll go back and use the word obnoxiously loud. And it seems to me, a literal violation of those two words in the permit, unnecessary and unusual. And again, it just seems incongruent with what their business is. It's a campground, it's quiet, it's rustic. I don't know, it seems to me it could be one or two people there saying, hey, it's a great idea if we set up big amplifiers and blow bassy music through the woods. And I don't know that anybody's booking a reservation at Sandy Pines to come for that. And I don't know that they would lose $1 in revenue if they didn't do that amplified music. So that's my take on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we know if they've always had an amusement permit in the past?
They haven't always, but I think they have for the past couple of years.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
It's not past couple of years? And
This precise, these words are in their current permit, the words that are defined in the unnecessary noise.
Well, the permit hasn't changed,
So therefore, these words are in their existing permit.
so I don't have the two.
But
So
the
I'm
permit
I'm
is
not going to
thank you. I'm
testify.
thinking, no, good for you, thank you. But to your not.
But I'm saying that the only thing that would have changed is their words, not ours.
Got it, bingo, perfect.
And do we know if we don't know if the police have been called or how many complaints we've had?
So I have not asked the police for a report of complaints, but I don't think the level of complaints made it to the level that the chief wouldn't sign off on it. But I'm happy to go back and ask for additional information if the board wishes.
No, I just wanted to
Yeah,
know what had transpired.
That gentleman had his hand up.
Yep. Oh, I was just saying, when you asked about if anyone called the police.
No, I believe that. I just want to know what level it rose to, that's all, yeah.
And sometimes we didn't want to bother the police too much, so we drive over there and try to politely ask them, but.
Okay. Okay, who is it? Who? Robin. Okay. Go ahead, Robin. Robin, you need to unmute.
Robin, you can speak, but you need to unmute.
Forgotten that.
Hello?
There she
Yep,
is.
okay, yep.
Hello, I also hear them through the woods and, I don't mind a little partying, but I'm just wondering, is there a limit to how often they can do this? Because I know Hidden Pond a few years back was just cranking it and you could hear it everywhere. So I don't know if there's, a limit on that because, sometimes, if it's all the time, it can be a bit much, so. Is there any stipulations about how often or, you know what I mean?
There are not with this special amusement permit they've received before.
Can they be
Okay.
limited to a type of music?
I don't think we could limit them, when you say type,
Well, like the gentleman said, a nice acoustic guitar by the pool is nice.
so if it's an acoustic guitar without amplification, they wouldn't need a special amusement. They only need the special amusement because of alcohol and amplification.
Yeah.
So when I'm, just for clarification or understanding, when I'm reading through the special amusement permit rules and regulations, what was being referenced, and I think John referenced it too, was the section C, the unnecessary noise. The license shall not allow on any licensed premises, the making, creation, maintenance of excessive or unnecessary or unnatural or unusually loud noise which disturbs a noise, injures or prejudices or endangers the comfort, repose, health, peace, or safety of individuals in the public general. So this is the ordinance that they're operating under? So if they're applying for this ordinance, it sort of negates amplification of music, right? If you read section C, doesn't
I think it is the definition of unnecessary. And this is where you get into, subjective view of, there's no measurement tool in here that says this level is unnecessary. I think it's trying to insinuate that anything above what a normal person would deem as adequate. So I'm happy to have a conversation with them about the complaints and the concerns. I think at one point in time for one of their licenses, maybe it was the movies or something, we talked about, or the planning board talked to them about a timeline. I don't know how late they're playing the
We
music.
shut it off at 10 o'clock at one of them.
Anywhere from late afternoon into early evening. I know it's subjective, but I would guarantee, I would go out on a limb, it's not a big limb, to say that anybody standing in my front yard when that amplification is going on.
Right.
Would say, oh yeah, that's obnoxious.
And I'm not saying it's not, but I just mean it doesn't have a decibel reading. Do you know what I mean? There's not an objective term. So that's all I'm saying is, I don't think you can negate the special amusement license without a conversation.
So I think so I sort of go back to some of the surveys that we've taken and some of the comments that we've had in a lot of the assemblies of residents, and the speaking of the character of the town. And so if I look at this area specifically, I say, okay, this is a, campground, and then as pointed out, the new business came in, still a campground, but they sort of upscaled it, right? And very nice neighbors and all that. So then how do you, I think for me, that it's a campground in the beach area, which basically by definition at night, the kids that were playing out on the beach are all sleeping, and the beach goes quiet at night. And if you want entertainment, you drive to the port. That's just sort of how we operate. And so this is where when I was reading through this, I was sort of having some trouble because I was going back to what people keep telling us about, we want to maintain the character of the town. So to me, it's like campground stays campground, band music, on a regular basis, head to the port,
Do we have like a 10 PM cutoff or anything like that, or it's?
Yes,
is it-
10 o'clock.
Okay, so, yeah. That's pretty what?
Still, that's a lot of time between cocktail hour and 10 o'clock. And I have to admit, I wouldn't want to be listening to heavy bass either.
Okay.
So I just have some empathy with this point. And I guess I want to underscore what Mary Beth was saying. I think a rock concert is unnecessary in a campground. So that's my feeling. But whether we say they can't do it, I think we need to think some more about this. Is this something that has to be approved tonight?
No,
No.
For
yeah.
one,
I'd like
want
to
some more
hear from
time
them.
to discuss it. I would say to table it, so at least I would like some more
And,
time.
and maybe we could have a discussion with them
That's
to
exactly-
understand,
Find a
is there a compromise? What's the necessity? Again, we don't want to hurt business,
Yeah.
but we want to help the neighbors.
Can I add one more comment, if I might? Just to piggyback on what you were saying about the fact that it's a campground, I mean, that's how they market themselves. If you go to their website, again, it's in the very first sentence, they have the word tranquil, quiet, they make reference to hearing the wind blow through the leaves. So this whole request to me just seems incongruent with their business model, and I doubt they would lose one reservation if they didn't have amplified music.
But you know,
by
I
the
have
pool.
been at campgrounds.
Yeah, but this,
And we have had
Yeah.
electronic music, and it's one of the things that I really, really enjoyed.
But
So,
this-
but it can't go on all night. But
Right.
I absolutely enjoyed it, and I think it's a good addition to something like that, because it keeps the people who are there entertained. I don't think they bring in a lot of people from outside, because they don't usually let that happen there, so. And I know people who live there.
Right.
And they like the music, they live there, and God forbid, they're my age. I mean, it's, the same people, so.
Well,
I think it
So-
depends on frequency,
I-
to me.
Well,
Yeah,
I
can
thought
see
whatever-
this
yeah.
license to have a 4th of July and a Labor Day bash or something,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
one thing. If it gets to be weekly.
Yeah,
then
I have no
that's
idea
a
what it
concern.
is.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I think,
I would-
I think the proposal to table it and maybe to have a conversation with them and see if we could find a compromise and then bring that forward.
I would welcome anyone to come to my house and my yard when this is going on and stand in my front yard, and I don't think I'll have to say too many words to prove the point.
Okay,
that
thank
it's
you.
over the top.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So I'll, who? Robin. Okay, Robin?
Hello, I just would like to make another point. I live on the marsh, so I hear a lot of stuff and, I'm tolerant because it's summer, but they've thinned the trees out. So, I mean, I lived at Salt Acres for 5 summers, seasonally, and they've thinned a lot of the trees out along the marsh. And so the amplification just screams across the marsh. And like I said, like John said, if it's once in a while or they stick to acoustic, that's one thing, but, I don't think I would have liked amplification all the time when I was living there and trying to work and, all that stuff. So I just would like to see some parameters before we agree to it, because I have, it screams across the marsh. There are hardly any trees along the marsh line, the lights are there, you can see all that now. So I would, I'm sure, people even closer than where I am can really hear that, because, you can hear a lot across the marsh. So I'd just like you to consider that fact as well, if you would.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I would move that we table, I move that we table the request for a special amusement license from Sandy Pine Campground.
A
Okay, well,
second.
Take it up at, okay, all those in favor?
you gotta have a date.
That's what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Take it up at the next meeting, that's what I was
Yes.
starting to say. Take it up at the next meeting, and that'll be the date that we'll make a decision,
So,
okay?
so amended. Yep.
So who's going to be the person that goes and talks to the people at the
I think they
campground?
should come in front of us to
You want to have them come here?
Well,
If they would.
So, okay, we,
I'd like to have a they should maybe come here. I think that'd be a
Yes,
good idea. I agree.
I think it is.
But I'd like to have a discussion with them. I wouldn't mind taking the action, or don't know if I need official action to have a discussion, but I think this requires a discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to be part of that, too.
I think they should.
So
come forward.
staff,
I think they should
staff
also-
will reach out to them.
yeah,
'cause
it's
that's
staff,
what
it's not,
licenses
it's
are
not
handled.
us, it's not us.
And we will
Excellent.
tell them that you would like to
not
see
us.
them at the next meeting.
Yes,
Excellent.
yeah, it's not our purview to do that. So, okay, so the motion is to table it. All those in favor? Okay, we'll table it. The date for the decision will be at the next meeting. Okay. Ocean Avenue Engineering Update, Woodard and Curran. Here we go again.
One piece of fun to the next. Good evening, I'm Barry Sheff from Woodard and Curran, and Caitlin Glass, who's our project manager for the project, is not here tonight. She's on maternity leave. She wishes she could be here, but we wish her the best on her maternity leave. Kevin Trainer, who's one of our technical managers, is here with me, and I promise I'll keep my presentation brief. I won't dive too deep. I know you've got a full agenda. Dave, if you can hit the next slide. I think you've all read Eric's memo, the town engineer's memo, right? We have flooding problems on Ocean Ave. We've had damage to the town's drainage infrastructure. We've lost Wanby Beach parking lot. We've all seen it. We've experienced it, January 13th storm and the results of that. I'm here to talk a little bit about the engineering and science that we've done, some of our recommendations. This work is, obviously, we're trying to be as consistent. We know you recently adopted your climate adaptation plan, the strategies, and so we're trying to be consistent with those strategies in terms of building resiliency and a little bit of community outreach. But we also recognize that these are policy decisions for you that you need to make. So next slide, please. So just as background, and I'm referring to the slides, our goal is to maintain access to the roadway, reducing the number of closures that have occurred as a result of storm events. And as you know, it's currently closed. There's been damages, as I said, to the water main and Lake of the Woods. Next slide, Dave. Thank you. You all know this area, I'm sure, quite well. It's a two-lane roadway down around by Walker's Point and over to Wanby Beach. There's a number of considerations relative to the FEMA base flood elevation, and we'll talk a little about that, the flood insurance rate maps. There's sidewalk on one side, the marsh on the north side, as you all know, Lake of the Woods, and there's a culvert that is on the side relative to Walker's Point on that end of the project. And then again, that gets damaged and has been damaged recently. So next slide. This is just the same image, but this is a result of that January 13th storm. It was dramatic, and we're going to reference that as we move forward. The next slide. Just to share with you all, our goals here are to really make sure that we're balancing reducing, trying to minimize the impacts on the neighbors, right? There are a number of driveways on the left side of this screen, which would be the west end of the project, is 236 Ocean Ave, and then 240 Ocean Ave. They're circled with hatching, and then you get to Sandy Cove Road, which is the private roadway. Across the street where you see that low point of 8.82 feet, that's the driveway to Walker's Point. As you extend further to the east, thank you. Whoever's doing that with the pointer, that's great. As you extend further to the east, you start to get to there's a pair of driveways for 250 Ocean Ave, Lake of the Woods being on the north side of the road. And if we're orienting, the ocean is on the south side of the road. And then as you push up to the right, where that low point of elevation 10.04, so that's at the Wanby Beach area. And then the last driveway up is 253 Ocean Ave. Next slide.
Just a quick
Yeah,
one.
go ahead.
How do we interpret the low points of like 8.2 and the 10.4? So in a typical high tide, I was just trying, like, I understand down by Goose Rocks Beach where the water comes up, but I didn't really have a feel for this 8.82 just on a normal, like,
At 5 feet. to that.
Yeah.
So that would be your mean sea level, right? About 5 feet.
Give
from
or
mean
take,
sea?
yep. So 8.8, well, are you okay waiting, or do you want to jump, we can
I
jump?
can wait.
Okay.
I'm
can
gonna
wait.
I promise I'll walk you through
Yep,
all the
yep,
elevations.
yep, I'll
Lori
wait.
kind of warned me that this is, and I know the elevations tend to be a little bit challenging.
No, I'll wait. Thank
Okay.
you.
Dave, thanks. So our work really, in order to make some decisions and recommendations to you all, we really wanted to get a sense for the geotechnical conditions. So what's going on in the subgrade? There's a bad news story here. The bad news story here is that there are really compressible soils. There's some old marsh and some peat, very thick layers. So anything we put on top of that road will consolidate and settle. Okay? So what we've tried to do, what we've identified is there's a solution to that. There is an engineering solution, and we'll present that, but it's really talking about phasing the construction over a multi-year period to allow the road to settle. Okay? Next slide, Dave. This is where we're going to start to talk a little bit about elevations, right? So FEMA focuses on special flood hazard areas. The base flood elevation that we're going to talk about is the 1% chance of exceeding in a given year the 100-year flood, okay? We'll talk a lot about that. There's very different conditions that exist between the Wanby Beach side and I'll call it the Sandy Cove Road side to the west at the end of the project. And similarly, the ocean has a different effect than the Lake of the Woods side. The base flood elevation on the Lake of the Woods side is built around precipitation. It's exclusively, so the elevation that you can see here of 11.3 on the Lake of the Woods side, that's really based on stormwater running off, collecting in that area. That's the 100-year base flood elevation, okay?
And that's how fast it's gonna drain out of the culvert. Is that the assumption? You've got the incoming from the rain, you've got it draining out the culvert.
And it will drain out the culvert, yes. And
The size of the culvert.
yes, the size of the culvert, yes. Okay, so those are all the same elevations. So to your question, 8.82, 10.04, you can think of that relative to that 11.3. So adding a little more context, and then I promise I'll talk
Okay.
about tides.
Yep.
And on the ocean side is made up of three things, the base flood elevation. It's made up of the still water elevation, right, which is the tide, the temperature, and pressure, right? That's where the water is. Wave height, so there's waves that come from deep offshore, and then the third thing is wave run-up. So you got a wave, and then it runs up. Maybe so if you can hit to the next one, please.
One question on this. Bill.
Sure.
If your sea is at 15 feet, you're not draining that pond. So is the idea that it's just at a short time because of tide cycle? You can't be 11 and 15. I mean, that 11 ain't gonna drain. It's gonna go to 12, 13 until it gets to 15, if it had enough time.
Yeah, so all of the evidence that we have, everything that we've shown is that's always been a freshwater
It is
marsh.
fresh water.
Yep, always
But
been a
it's gonna
freshwater.
back up. It's gonna drain. You say you're at 11 because you can drain it fast enough.
Well,
So that's the steady state.
different kind of hydraulics, though. Yeah. I mean, absolutely, and again, these are,
We get a lot of rain. These big rains are
Yeah.
heavy rains.
yeah,
It's gotta drain.
yep,
And if the tide is higher or the base level's higher than 11 feet on the ocean side, it ain't gonna drain.
correct. That's
Drain,
correct.
baby, drain.
Yeah, right? All right,
Yeah, yeah,
so you'll get to that, huh?
yeah.
All right, all
Well,
right.
yes, yes and no, yes. That's preliminary design a little bit, but yes.
No,
No.
Okay. So, so what you see here in the lower left, this is just trying to help you see the still water elevation, which is that elevation 8.9, and then you see the wave, right, which is in a velocity zone, the wave is greater than 3 feet, and then the wave run-up, so that elevation 15 is the 1% chance or the 100-year elevation where the wave runs up to elevation
Surge?
15.
Is that surge?
Yeah,
Okay.
but surge plus wave.
Yeah.
yep. Next slide, please.
I remember that.
So that's the storm, right? You remember that? And that's at Wanby Beach.
That's a lot higher than 15 feet.
So this slide here is really to help you understand a little bit more around the elevation. So this is, sort of gets to the question about tides. So on the right-hand side, you're looking at the Atlantic Ocean, if you think of it that way, and that's close to the Wanby Beach area. On the left-hand side of the graph is the Lake of the Woods, so that's on the on the land side, on the north side of the project. And if I just start on the right side, I want to take you through, so mean high water and highest annual tide, 6.7, so to give you a sense relative to the 8 point and the 10 point. Does that make sense, Mary Beth?
Just say that one more time slowly.
Highest annual tide of 6.7.
Okay.
And those are all on that same datum, right? The datum being the low point being 8 point
Yep.
something and 10 point something, just for round discussion.
So the height, and again, you add 5, just for us that have tide charts,
Yeah.
and we're used
Right.
to seeing the height of the tide.
Yep.
We add 5 to these numbers,
Okay.
correct? So therefore, we're saying that the average high tide here is about 11 feet. That's maybe a little bit higher than a lot of the average high tides.
Right.
What am I missing?
That would be the highest annual.
Kevin,
The
you're
highest
gonna have
tide,
to
sorry,
come to
perfect.
the.
Yeah.
Because at 11 feet is our king tide, so that is
So
correct.
let's use our microphones.
Here, you want to take it with you?
So the 11 feet is our king tide, and that's good.
Yeah.
The last astronomical high we had was 14 feet. That's the one we had when was it? No, it wasn't January 13th. It was the big one we had at Portland. Was that the 13th at any rate?
Yeah.
It was 14 feet, which is going to be higher than your 8.9.
Right. So
Just,
the,
we're together on that. And if that was still water. There was, yeah, good,
right.
yeah.
So the highest annual tide that's listed up there is that's a measure by the Maine DEP. They look at over the course of I think in this case, it's actually a few years ago, what the highest tide was in that year. So the
Right.
mean high water is closer to that, like, normal high tide that you see.
Right, I
And then-
misspoke, I'm with you on that. My concern is that the astronomical highs are higher than our average high, and they could be considerably higher.
Yeah, most definitely. And kind of one other piece to the question you had on the earlier slide. Am I not speaking to the mic?
Sorry.
Oh. Thanks. The elevation of 11.3 in the Lake of the Woods versus the
Yes.
VE zone 15.
Uh-huh.
That VE zone is basically the top of the wave. So the still water level is closer to 9. So it does still drain from the Lake of the Woods out in that case.
Yeah, for normal days.
Yep,
For storms, not so much.
not
but-
as much, but it does still, it's not like
and
a static
it's the
water
big
level.
storms that's gonna get, no, I'm with you on that.
Yep.
I was more concerned about the storm events.
Right.
I was concerned about, atmospheric rivers dumping inches rapidly as it does here. And that Lake of the Woods gonna fill up.
Yes,
You're gonna have some height, so we have to be ready for that on the land side of what we build. All right.
yep.
So Dave, if you want to go to the next slide. So as we look at this project and we start talking about solutions and what are the ideas, we're looking at a couple different options, segmented block walls. So when we think about raising the roadway any height, whether we're going to raise it a foot, 5 feet, 15 feet, whatever we're going to raise it, right? We need to construct something that allows that wall to be up. Similar to Pier Road, right? There's a wall that and the intent of that is to reduce the impact. We can just fill the land, but in order to fill the land, you get out into the natural resource, into the wetland. And so our approach here is to look at a couple different options to be able to reduce the impact within the resource. Does that make sense? And so we looked at segmented block walls, which is similar to what we're constructing right now on Pier Road. It's similar to what was constructed on Ocean Ave by the Nonantum. And the challenge with that segmented block wall, as I described earlier, there's a settlement concern that we have. And so anything that we put in place, we need to be able to settle with the surrounding road. And so that was a challenge for us. And so we said, okay, what are our other options? The other option is a significantly more flexible wall that we're able to build, and it will allow for the settlement to occur without losing that investment in the infrastructure. So if you think of it that way, two opportunities, two options to raise, given the geotechnical conditions, the poor soils that we talked about. This rockery wall is an opportunity to do that without having to reconstruct it after the settlement occurs.
And also it's healable, right?
That's right, that's a
So
good way to describe it.
That to me is important. You look at what happens at Kennebunk Beach, they gotta start to build walls again every time they break, and that, yeah.
That's right, that's a good way to describe it.
What about the other side of the coin on that one, though? So what we saw when we were driven around the day after the January storm, we saw huge pieces of granite that got moved. So I think my question is the difference between the segmented block wall and the rockery wall, which I like the name rockery wall. But, so do you lose when those heavy storm surges come in and those pounding waves? Does the segmented wall hold stronger than the rockery wall? Will that, in the longer term, help us keep because our end goal here is to keep our infrastructure, our roads, and the beds below our roads secure.
They're both designed to withstand the forces. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, so to your answer, they both would serve the same purpose. They would meet the same goals of being able to hold up against those storm events.
And most of the rock that I saw moved after that storm was undercut. So if you have an undercutting event, then your big pieces of rock can move. But the rocks, like the main walls at Goose Rocks, I mean, they'll shift. They definitely shift, but they shift inches, not feet.
Okay, so talk to
And
me
so-
more about the undercut. I don't follow you on that.
Well, we can talk later, but
Okay.
it slices, the softer ground was eroded underneath.
Oh,
They
okay,
were
okay,
set
got
up.
you,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but, sorry.
Next slide, Dave. Thank you. So Wanby Beach is a more unique scenario. Wanby Beach, as we said, gets more wave action. And so in order to address the wave action sort of that you're describing, that John is alluding to, and the impact of that force, was either to continue to elevate the road, either using a rockery wall or a segmented block wall, again, designed to withstand those forces, or we could maintain a height of the roadway, and then build a wave wall over the top. These are a couple graphics from a couple examples of that, but if you think a bit, I think the easiest way to describe it is just some additional height on top of the wall, on top of the road. Okay, so almost like a concrete curb or a concrete wall that you would project above the roadway.
And so the sizes of our potential waves and the height, would you envision that to be above driving eyesight to the ocean?
So the way that when we get to our recommendations, what you'll see is I'm going to talk about a scenario of 1316. So 13 feet for the elevation of the road, and a wave wall that goes to elevation 16, so 3 feet higher. And a 1417 scenario, which is a road elevation at 14 and a wave wall that goes to 17. And I'll share with you some of the benefits of the protection of that measure.
But the fact is, you won't see the ocean.
Yeah,
Driving, you would not be able to see the ocean.
That's a bummer, but if it's that is a bummer.
It is a bummer.
Way we could,
In that section.
in that section.
and-
To be sure, yeah, but that Wambi section.
yeah, the Wambi section's a
I remember
pretty
the old
section.
boiler that was, that's tough. There's just a lot of nostalgia about that section.
I wanted,
I was close.
I'll share the public safety sentiment, which is as civil engineers, we try not to design it so that people are looking out and that they're actually driving and paying
Those are
attention
the
driving down
drivers.
the
I'm
road.
talking about the passengers.
Oh, well, see, that's true. I haven't considered that.
Well, and then we're gonna have the driver.
Plus, we had parking there.
At Wanby, and we would still preserve the park, and we would, we're proposing to still preserve the parking at Wanby
Okay.
Beach. Yeah.
So you could get out and walk and look over the wall.
Yeah. The next slide,
stand
Dave.
when you're coming.
So this is a slide, you may recall, we shared this with you. It's very detailed. I'll give you an overview of it. We shared a similar slide with you with Pier Road, and the intent here is to help you understand all of the elevations relative to the solutions that we're offering. And so I want to, Dave, if you can click once, and you'll see there's going to be a red line that pops up, okay? So the red line is to help you, that's a highlight, to help you understand that's setting the road at elevation 12. Now recall, it's 8-something and 10-something. We're proposing to elevate the entire roadway to a minimum elevation 12. The reason why it's red is because we don't feel that it provides adequate protection at elevation 12, but we wanted to study it. So what you see above that red line of 12 is you see a series of elevations, starting at the top with the mean high water elevation of 3.5, give or take. The 1-year high water, highest annual tide of 6.7. Again, that's as Kevin described, right? Main DEP data that that's presented there, et cetera. And as you go down, you'll notice the January 13th, 2024, at the tide gauge in Portland, it registered 9.3. So it's starting to give you a sense of where the elevations are. We know that during that January 13th storm, it overtopped your road at elevation 8 point, right, in front of Walker's Point. And we also know, although it's not part of the tide gauge that was measured, but we also know that the wave action at Wanby Beach was higher than that. As John pointed out, it was removing, pushing stones, right? It pushed all the material over onto the Lake of the Woods. If you go to the next one, so this is yellow. This is the 13-16 scenario. 13-16 scenario is elevating the road to elevation 13, and then at Wanby Beach, having a wave wall up to elevation 16 to prevent that wave action as you experienced.
And so Wanby Beach is just open ocean out there. There's no there's nothing breaking it, right?
Correct.
There's no,
It's all open.
You got it.
there's nothing.
Open the ocean.
Open ocean. And yet, when we go on the other side of Walker Point,
Yeah.
where the sidewalk had been pulled up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
is that in this? No, that's not. That's above. this-
Correct, that's above.
Okay. It's above the study.
That was open ocean, just as.
No,
That's
part of the study area, sorry, part of the study area, part of the project.
Okay.
It is part of the project.
Not the one that was way, there were several. There was one up by Ocean.
Yeah,
Fire.
right,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, so just in front of, I guess it's I think it's 236 Ocean Ave where the sidewalk came away.
Yeah, and then there was one further,
Yeah,
there's one further
Yeah,
up.
Yeah, well further west, there were a couple other segments, yeah. So that's I'll call that the yellow scenario, 13-16, and I'm gonna show it to you in a different way, that it might be easier also. And then, once again, Dave, this is the green scenario. This is a 14-17, so raising the road to elevation 14, and then a wave wall elevation 17. The major difference between these is 13-16, call it that if everybody's okay. 13-16 provides you protection for the 100-year base flood elevation, okay? The 14-17 scenario provides you protection for the 100-year base flood elevation plus 1.5 feet of sea level rise. So that's the 2050 anticipated sea level rise scenario. So that's how we assess these two scenarios. If you can go to the next slide, Dave. This is Just,
one more, so
Sure.
your 2050 date, you're saying 1.5 feet. which is
1.5 feet.
Really more important to look at than the date, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is, right. It's debatable whether that happens in 2050
Sooner
or,
later,
right,
yes.
or
Maybe
later.
I'm looking more towards 35, but that doesn't matter.
Correct.
All right.
This is the same data. It's just graphically represented. So again, so if I can walk you through it, left side is Lake of the Woods, right side is the Atlantic Ocean at Wamby Beach. The red line that you see, that's the proposed roadway. It's setting the proposed roadway, we're calling it, this is the yellow scenario, minimum road elevation of 13 with a wave wall up to elevation 16. You can see underneath the red line is a dashed gray line. That's the existing grade of Ocean Ave. Yeah, perfect, thank you. What you're seeing here is the, if I want to start you on the left side, on the Lake of the Woods side, right? So 1%, so that's the 100-year base flood elevation at 11.3 of Lake of the Woods, okay? And then on the right side, the 1%, right, AC, base flood elevation, I'm sorry, the base flood elevation of 15, right? So that's the velocity zone elevation. Does that make sense? You see that line there? And then what you're seeing, that 18.9, that's a 3.9 foot scenario. That's 2,100. That's a level of protection that we don't feel is a good investment for you all at this point.
Well, the road's gonna have some work in 75 years.
You got it. We're going to be talking about other things. Maybe not us, but somebody will.
When we think about the wave wall, so what I'm trying to think through is, so there's the section of this that we're talking about of raising, right? So I have two questions. One question is, then there's the rest of the Ocean Ave. So are we funneling water down to those other areas? And then the second question is, the wave wall itself, if we do get waves surge over, then that water's trapped. Unlike, normally now, it'll surge back out, most likely if we don't have that low. So a wall, doesn't the wall now capture it over on this side and it doesn't allow it to go? It has to find home over on the Lake of the Woods side.
We'll create drainage points similar to, I'm trying to think of the good example.
Seawall
Yeah.
on Ocean Avenue.
Right,
Yeah.
that's a good example. If you remember on Pier Road, as we get closer to Cape Porpoise Pier, we have a low point. There's a low point where we actually drain out behind the wall. Same, we would propose to design in a similar scenario. So the goal is not to trap the water. Relative to the remainder of Ocean Ave, on the Walker's Point side or Sandy Cove Road side, that will have a low point. We'll provide opportunities. There's storm drainage infrastructure there, and we'll provide opportunities for that water to drain out. During storm events, there may be ponding water on that road if we get above the height of the wave wall.
We had 17-foot waves that they recorded in this last storm.
Yeah.
It was
It's quite a
incredible.
storm.
Yeah.
What we're really trying to do is balance impact to the abutters, because there will be, and I'll take you through that, impact to the resource, right? There's wetlands there, and making sure that we're being diligent about the use of public funds, right? We can continue to raise the road, that comes at a cost. We can continue to raise the road, and that comes at increased natural resource impact. We can continue to raise the road, and that comes at additional impact to the abutters. We're trying to find that balance of level of protection for the infrastructure and those items. Does that make sense? And maybe if I can go to the next slide, Dave. These next two slides, I'll be quick. What you're seeing here is the full length of the road. I'm not going to walk you through the whole thing, other than I'm going to tell you that it's about 1,100 feet. What you're seeing here in the blue, that's about 7,500 square feet of impact to private property. It will require licenses to construct that. It's outside of the town right-of-way. The,
Those are gonna be slopes
Those
down
will be
from the
sloped
higher-
down.
From the higher elevation.
correct. The orange that you see, that's hatching, that's wetland impact. So that's impact on the natural resource. This is roughly 10,400 square feet of wetland impact.
Which scenario, is this the rock or the?
Rockery.
This is the rock.
This is a rockery. You got it. If you go to the next slide, and maybe you can see that, maybe flash back, Dave, and then flash again. So I don't know if you can see
The
that
difference,
as you
yeah.
go to elevation 14, you can see the difference. In this scenario, elevation 14, we go from roughly 7,500 square feet of impact to the abutters to about 11,000 square feet, little more than 11,000 square feet of impact to the abutters.
So this is 1417.
This is 1417, correct. And we go from 10,400 square feet of impact in the resource to about 12,700 square feet.
And the reason is because we're going higher and we're not. going
Higher.
Higher, and so we're,
Little bit more encroachment as we go out. So if you take the rockery wall, I wish I had different opposable thumbs. I don't know if this is visible, but if you think of the road, this is where my thumbs meet, this is the top of the roadway surface, and the rockery wall tips out, it's the inside of my fingers, right? As you raise the road up,
you have to go out.
you have to go out further. Sorry, that's a crude
When you
visual.
go up, you get wider.
You go, you get wider, right? We can only go so steep with the rockery wall. And again, the rockery wall is, I like the term that John used, is healable, and it will, it's more malleable and will allow us to construct the road, allow the road to settle, and then complete the project.
But you're proposing to do the solid wall inside the rockery wall in that one area by Wanby Beach?
Above the rockery wall.
So the solid wall sits on top of the rockery wall?
Yeah, on top of the road, but yes.
On top.
On top of the parking area,
It's just
if you
a
want to
lip,
think of it.
basically a lip,
A lip?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a big curb.
yeah.
Okay, and then the rockery wall is on the other, so the curb's here, and then the rockery wall slope comes up and then goes down.
You got it.
And cars are over here.
You got it. The last slide, Dave, I'll show you is just a comparison. So that's all of these things, and you probably all saw it. You got to the punchline, I'm sure, when you all read through the preliminary design report, the costs associated with it. I apologize for delivering that bad news. So what you see sort of working the criteria on the left-hand side, the first column, 1316 with a rockery wall, 1316 with a vertical retaining wall, then 1417 with a rockery wall, 1417 with a retaining wall. You'll notice, to the point, to Mary Beth, to your point, the vertical retaining walls have significantly less natural resource impact. They have less impact to private property, but they're give or take $1 million more to construct. Or said differently, 30% more to construct. And that's because that wall is going to, during the settlement period, as I said, the soil conditions are really poor. During that settlement period, we'll have to essentially reconstruct that wall. After
Can you
that
explain to me that was a question I had, is why? Because I know that the roadway would settle, but you're building the walls up high enough, so what, is it pushing it out, or what's it doing?
It's different, so it would be, the term is differential, right? So differential settlement. So what's gonna happen as you fill the road's gonna consolidate. The thickness of that peat layer, that peat and marsh layer, varies from 7 feet to 15 feet thick, depending upon where you are along the alignment. And so in the areas where it's 7 feet thick, it'll consolidate a little bit less. In the areas where it's 15 feet thick, it'll consolidate a little bit more. So it creates that constructability issue where you can't, we wouldn't expect it. It's not all going to just settle into place the same way.
I understand that, but the walls are already there. So we're talking about the impact would be the roadway that's already contained within the walls, so
The
why?
walls will settle as well.
Okay, that was my
Yeah,
question.
sorry,
Yeah.
the walls will settle as well.
Will it settle or will it crack?
A segmented block wall shouldn't crack, but it will definitely settle. Yeah.
And the rockery wall obviously can just,
And the rockery wall will settle in on itself, correct?
And the rockery wall can, okay, so the rockery wall is to John's point, it's a healable place. It's like, it's a living wall. You can repair it, yeah,
and readjust.
and readjust.
Right. It'll-
You can bring them
So we're talking about everything like at the point of impact. So water's coming in, our coast is right here, point of impact, this is what these discussions about. Is there anything that anybody does that sort of stops the energy before it hits the coast? Like, I'm just making stuff up, I have no information, but do you dump some huge granite boulders out a few 100 feet or, 10 feet or something to stop the energy?
There are jetties, right, that you can construct. There are floating wave breakers that you can
steel
construct.
pyramids, the
Yep.
steel structures you can put out.
There-
Ugly as sin, but they work.
Yeah, okay, but there's like nothing that would be not ugly as sin.
That's all in the eyes of the beholder.
Yeah, and
But it's, yeah, but they do work. I mean, you can.
they do work, and they work to resolve wave action. What they don't
Yeah.
work to resolve is just the sea level
Sea level.
rise.
No, I get
And
that.
that's still water elevation, right?
But
that
I
we're-
think that's part of what we're trying to solve for, right, is the,
Yeah.
Surge.
is the surge
got it.
and that amount of energy that comes in. So I
It
was,
also costs a lot of money to do that kind of thing, too.
Yeah.
They're expensive.
Yeah,
Okay.
very expensive.
yeah, I just didn't know, because right now, like, I understand, I don't understand these, this engineering
You got it.
feat in
I
terms of
think you
the
got
coast.
it, though.
But on one of your proposals, you show in the future, you might raise the wall, this,
Correct.
piece of wall in the future. So you could start at 2 feet rather than 3 feet, and then raise it if you needed it.
You could, sure, you could go 14, we could go 14,
14 plus
16, we could, yeah. And then we'd want to talk about what level of protection that provides you, and is that the level of protection you're comfortable with? And that's really where it gets to.
Again, it's a splash wall,
It's
so
a
it's
splash
a
wall.
matter, you're gonna drain that water off, most of it's, so that's something to think about.
You got it.
And those are as, the life of that splash wall is designed, what's the design life
Yeah,
for
think
that
of it,
splash
it's
wall?
a concrete wall, you can think of it as whether it's a 50-year life of infrastructure, or it's 25 years of infrastructure, but it's
It's
significant.
a
It's
significant.
reinforced, it's a
significant.
reinforced concrete.
Correct,
Yeah.
it's
Okay. Yeah,
designed
just looking for
to be in that
design.
It's
condition.
gonna depend on how much rock is in the water when it hits, to be honest with you, because you can move a lot of rocks. It'll be interesting. You look what happened at Kennebunk Beach. I mean, those are big walls, and they last a season.
Right.
Some of them.
We're not going to move our rockery wall down to Kennebunk
No,
Beach, are we?
we're not.
No, okay.
So one other thing we talked about at the staff level was just at Wanby Beach as well. Besides the parking area, people do access the water from there and go out on the rocks, and whether they should or not is another story, but they, that would change that as well, people's access.
Yeah, certainly it would change it. There are accommodations that we could make if that was the desire of the board, but it opens you up to exposure from the wave action that we're trying to prevent.
Once you put notches, I mean, that's one thing at
Yeah.
Goose Rocks was so amazing, that people would develop instead of putting a flyover wooden ramp, some folks had just put a notch in the seawall. And every one of those homes sustained considerable damage. It just as you know. So
I know.
I'm not a fan of putting a notch anywhere, yeah.
So this would, so we would or would not have parking?
You would have parking.
We would have
maintain,
parking.
But no
correct.
access to the.
So we would have parking for overlook pictures,
Absolutely.
stopping,
Right.
just no access.
Absolutely.
Okay. I like the 2 feet,
I like the 2 feet too, but we guess see what it means
yeah.
in terms of safety.
that
Any
it?
other questions?
So do you want to talk about next steps?
Next steps. Yeah, so, thank you, Lori. So next steps, we are prepared to finalize the preliminary design report. There's a lot of data in there. And really, what we're looking for feedback is whether we should finalize at 1316, 1417, or potentially 1416 as a scenario. And I would say our recommendations, based on the science and the work that we've done, would certainly be on 1417. But we also understand your point about the aesthetic of the passenger in the car.
And a 15, 17 would just be that much more expensive. That foot, I imagine, is not cheap.
No, correct.
That's the expensive foot. The
Yeah.
other foot's cheap.
Yeah, you could almost look at it, right, to go from 2.8 to 3.2 was roughly $400,000.
Yeah.
And so
200K a foot.
another $400,000, right, to get from,
Okay, yeah.
from 14 to
Yeah, yeah. That's a lot for aesthetics.
I think you take the road base up to
Yeah,
where you need
just-
it, and then you play with the wall, the splash wall height,
Yeah,
start it too.
Yeah. I'm just not clear how much extra protection that 3 feet made when you go from the 14 to 17. When that's going to come into play. It seems to me only at the largest
Astronomical,
storms are those, well, but the tides won't be a problem. It's going to be a reasonable surge. Could we have that chart again?
So if you go, Dave, can you go to slide 12? Would be great, right there. So if you see there's the wave run up, so on the right-hand side, right, if I'm gonna go from the bottom, 3.48 to 6.7, right? And then the next elevation is 7.9, that's the 10% annual, 10% chance of occurrence. And then the next line above it is the 1%.
Occurrence of what?
Occurrence of the 10-year, 10% occurrence of an exceedance in a given year of the 100-year flood elevation.
Still water or?
Still water,
That's still water.
still water.
We ain't got
But
still
I'm gonna take you up further, though.
Good.
The 1% chance, right, is that still water elevation of 8.9. And then if you see the projection of the dashed line, and so the 1% chance, remember, is the 1% chance in any given year of the 100-year flood event happening. That's the still water elevation at that point. And then you can see that dashed blue line that comes up, and you can see where that hits, right? It's right around elevation 15.
Yeah.
Which is the base flood elevation of the V-zone. That's what we're talking about. And so to your question about what elevation, that was why we started with a 1316 scenario.
And that's the one, do you have the 1.5 foot on that? What are we talking, where is our anticipated 1.5 foot?
1.5 foot is not,
1.5
not
foot.
on that graphic, but it would be it would literally be 1.5 feet above that. So as opposed to 15, it would be 16.5.
So this is your 1% on current sea level?
Correct. So if you had 1.5, so that's why the 1417 provides you that 1.5, 1417 provides you the base flood elevation plus 1.5 feet of sea level rise
Yeah,
protection.
so it gets, so the 14, you don't want to go below the 14.
That's real clear.
Yeah, so the 14 is
But I
where
think
you,
you need your 3 foot wall too. You're just gonna be foolish.
You're just gonna be back.
You're gonna be, you're gonna be.
Microphones.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, you'll be back fixing
We're
it
not
then.
making, are we making this decision tonight? Are we saying which one we want tonight?
They're asking you,
Correction.
Yeah.
they're asking you for direction because they're ready to make their final engineering
Right.
report. And so if they are, they want to put one recommendation in there. They've given you their recommendation.
I think we should go with their recommendation.
I agree.
It's just too easy.
so the rockery wall is your recommendation.
Rockery wall,
Good.
Yeah.
roadway elevation at 14 with a 3-foot wave
17.
wall to 17 at
I
1B
agree.
Beach.
To consider
That's
2.5.
good. I think that's
After
good.
seeing what happened, yeah, I
I
think
think
it's good.
that's the right way. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
You guys are the professionals.
Okay, that's,
Should we?
everybody agree? Make a motion? Yeah, somebody,
But it is a vista. The vista's gone at Wanby Beach when you come around that corner, right?
And the access is gone.
The vista was gone when the road was closed too.
Yes.
That
I
is
should
a-
have said
That is a
that.
true point. Yes, that is a true point.
Well, the vista was still there, you just couldn't get to see it.
so I'll entertain a motion to give direction.
John, you want to start?
I'm not happy with it, so I'm not gonna make it. Do I have to accept it?
What are you not happy with?
What are you not happy about?
You think it should be higher?
No, I do hate losing the vista. I think this is the right thing to do. We've got to protect the road. I'm happy with the heights. If I had all the money in the world, I would lift the road $400,000, but that, I'm not gonna say either. The vista isn't worth it. I'm just not happy. I'm not saying
So-
I'm not gonna vote for it.
So can we just talk about the
Go
vista?
ahead, make a motion.
Wait, can I just
Make
ask
a motion,
one
then we'll
question
make
about
a
the
motion.
vista? Just one question about the vista. When you come around the corner and you're on the other side of Walker's Point, do you get your vista back?
Oh, sure.
So we're not
Oh,
talking
going up the
about-
hill.
Yeah, we're not talking about that whole section's gone. It's literally only in
Down
one
at the
beach.
bottom.
Just at Wanby Beach.
Yeah, one B,
Yep.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
I'll make a motion for the elevation to be 14.7 with the rockery wall.
14
And
and 17.
14 and 17.
14 and 17, you mean.
Isn't that what I said?
You said 14.7.
14 point, that's what I said,
Okay,
It's good.
isn't it?
that's good, good.
It's
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, good. So that's what we want to do.
Thank you, and my apologies for taking so long.
Well, thank you.
No, that was a good
Somebody
discussion.
have questions? I don't know. Did somebody ask a lot of questions? They may have.
Well, I think
Thank you, Barry.
this
Thank
time they
you.
were
So
necessary.
just to be clear, Woodard and Curran is going to finish their engineering report and give it to us, and then their work is done. Until we come forward and say we're willing to fund a further final design or seek additional funding or anything of that nature.
Yeah, so
So this report comes to us and then it goes on the shelf until we do something with it.
right, so this vote, what I understood it to be, was just a decision back to Woodward and Kern
design.
on what design would we want a final report, not that we were,
Right, and I
Decide
just
on
want to
that.
clarify
Yeah.
that
We don't
because
have the money.
in a
until-
month,
Well,
if
we don't-
somebody says, so what are we doing about that? Well, we're not doing anything right this minute because we don't have the funding in place.
But just to be clear, now that we've said that, so what are we doing in the interim? And maybe we need Eric to talk about that, or maybe you could
Yeah,
just fill us in.
we're working to repair it and open it, and they'd be happy to give you an update on that
That'd be great. Good.
right now.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Barry.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Good job.
I would have been happy with 13. I said I would have been happy with 13.
So last week, the crew did go in, they did peel up all the damaged pavement. It turns out there was actually concrete under that pavement that was there previously. So there wasn't as much grading work to do. So they did kind of get the rough grade back in the way it needs to be. They've also, the rocks that were undercut and fell backwards, they have picked back up and placed. And for the most part, all of that is shored back up. The dirt parking lot is back in decent shape. A little bit of fine touch-up to do, and we're hoping to have asphalt as early as the beginning of next week.
Wow.
Wow.
So
Boy, that's
the
great.
road is open to traffic right now, so.
Oh, that's excellent news, Chris.
Yeah, it is.
Did you want to talk about the sidewalks?
Yep, so George Burr has also completed a good part of the work down there. He expects to be done in time as well for that section of road that we lost down there by the stone wall. The sidewalks have also been repaired to the point where they're ready to accept pavement. And so as long as we can get asphalt next week, those should be paved back in at the same time.
Were those always asphalt, those sidewalks there?
Yes.
That was always asphalt.
and the property on the outside of the sidewalk, on the one that was closer to the church, so further away from, not part of the study.
Yes, yeah.
Didn't we see like a lot of the,
That was
major-
scoured out.
Scattered out, so that's all still carved out there.
It's carved out to some extent. We have armored it.
Okay.
And we've also used some geotextile fabric in there as well to help, retain that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Okay, thanks. Okay, moving on, we have to authorize the wastewater commitment for the calendar year 2024. Who's going to do that?
So in your packet is the wastewater commitment that Nicole, as treasurer, has prepared for you. So every year you must sign the commitment. It's much like a tax commitment. And then the treasurer is then committed to actually collect these sewer bills.
I'll make a motion to authorize the wastewater commitment totaling $1,639,892.73.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, 5-0.
It's a lot of work.
Done, a lot of work, yeah. Big list.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is to authorize a certification of the referendum questions for the June town meeting warrant.
We've been over these, all right?
Yeah, we have.
Just start fine, same language you see.
Excuse me?
You looking for a motion, Mike?
I'm looking for a motion to, these have been discussed, approved, and this is just authorizing to put them on the warrant.
I'll make a motion to certify the referendum questions for the June town meeting warrant.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Authorize and sign the June 2024 town meeting warrant.
I'll make a motion to authorize the June 2024 town meeting warrant.
And
Oh.
look forward to signing.
All those in favor? Did we get, okay, 5-0. Okay, countersign the RSU 21 budget validation referendum election warrant.
This is the one we have to sign, right?
Yes, we have to sign it to,
Yeah,
yeah, so
don't get writer's cramp.
we will countersign it. Make a motion?
I've made all these other motions, well, somebody
I
else.
will move that we countersign the RSU 21 budget validation referendum election warrant.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, 5-0.
Didn't want my name on it.
Set a public hearing date of May 9th, 2024 to consider the ordinance revisions on the June 12th, 2024 town meeting ballot.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, 5-0. So we're down to authorize the 3-year lease with Chems for the use of the Cape Porpoise Fire Department. And I think that's Jay.
Jay. You did great. You did great. You did great.
What?
I said, you did great. You did great.
Good evening. So the lease, as I wrote it, I basically took what the existing lease between AVEC and Chems was, and we just made a few tweaks. There was a base rate that Chems paid to AVEC on a every 6 months. It was $1,500 total for the year. We got rid of that and had them pay all the utilities, which is the heating, fuel, water, and CMP bill.
That makes a lot of sense.
And they'll pay 100%, and we'll bill them. I'll sign off on the bill, it'll get paid, and then quarterly, we will bill them for.
Are those comparable or less, hopefully, or what is?
It's really gonna be probably about the same as what they were paying.
Good.
Yep.
It just sounds a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
Yep. There were a couple
Responsibility on
things.
yours, too, which is good. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just, that's
There
good.
was a couple things that in the little bit of back and forth there was between Chems, that they wanted a person put in the lease that I'd be the representative for the town, and Joe Carroll, the Chems chief, would be the representative from Chems. For if there's a problem, it's who you go to first. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
I make a motion to authorize the 3-year lease with Chems for the use of the Cape Porpoise Fire Station.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Thanks, Jay.
Well, he's up again.
Yeah,
While you're there.
While you're there.
well, you have me
Next
here.
item is the public safety study recommendations by Jay.
So, after the study was presented to us, a couple days later, after we had some more time to digest it, the town manager and I sat down and came up with what we felt were the 6 top priorities to go after first on their list of recommendations. So the first one was developing and updating our standard operating procedure, guidelines. This is a document that we would use to give the employees and how we would handle certain instances, a guideline to that, for instance, a carbon monoxide call would be, we want to make sure we have 2 meters so that one could, if it were to malfunction, at least we'd have the other one, and if they were different, then we'd probably bring in a third one type thing. But it gives the employees a way to look at what the job is that they have to do and some of the things, or the major things that they need to accomplish before saying, okay, yep, you're all set, see you later. So it's doing that. It's kind of challenging, though, to try to put all this information into what you want to keep as a 2-page document. So it gets broken down even farther into different SOGs as well. And
So,
one of the...
Jay,
sorry.
on that one, just really quick. So these standard operating procedures, so to speak, there's nothing
Guidelines.
we can lift and shift from other, like, these aren't like 2-pagers that are known in
There
the
are,
industry?
but they still need to go through as being a site-specific kind
Okay.
of thing because of a difference in how
Yep.
we operate.
Yep.
And there is, in the FY '25 budget, it's still there to have a training coordinator for 10 hours a week. And that's gonna be one of the jobs that this training coordinator will do, is to help me get through these SOGs and get them out there. So they're out of draft form. We've been using them in draft form. We need to finalize that part. The next one was development of a run card system. This is a system, and I've had a preliminary conversation with the supervisor and dispatch. This is what links the fireground and dispatch together in a sense. It's a document, or it'll be on their computer. They can just click on it. And if I pull up to something and, oh wow, there's, a lot of fire, and we have the run cards in place, give me a second alarm, the dispatcher's gonna know who he needs to call and ask for what resources. It's gonna be right there at their fingertips. And for us, there's a little more work. I'm gonna know what I'm getting automatically as well. I don't have to think about it. The way we operate right now, it's just a little bit easier for us, up until now, I guess, to call dispatch and say, this is what I need, and here's where I need it from. But we can take that kind of thinking part away and have it all laid out, that if I ask for a second alarm, it's these units from these towns. If we go third, fourth, fifth alarm, whatever, it's all spelled out for the dispatcher, and we know what we're getting as well. And so it's the other part of that, though, that is gonna take some time is generating the agreements with the other towns that, because I can't just say, oh, well, Biddeford's gonna send me this, and Arundel's gonna send me that, and Kennebunk's gonna send me this, because they all need to look at it and say, okay, what does my staffing level look like in my town if the apparatus Kennebunkport is, and crew Kennebunkport is asking for is in Kennebunkport?
Don't you need some flexibility as to where the fire is? I mean, if it was right on the line with the Arundel, would you want to call Biddeford? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, so that's another part of this. A lot of the times on Log Cabin Road, we both get called, because no one understands that the line goes right down the side of the road. Yeah, but there's another part of it. It would be generating automatic mutual aid,
All right,
as well.
depending on location.
Yeah, well, yeah, and depending on what the call is. So a run card in the hydranted area of town is gonna be pumpers and ladder trucks, depending on where it is. If you go outside the hydranted area, then our run card might look a little different. It might not be ladder trucks as much as I'd be looking for tank trucks, because I need to haul water to the scene and start shuttling it or something like that. So you have to lay out each kind of section of town, each kind of scenario, and what that would look like. An automatic mutual aid is when York takes the 911 call and calls us and we get sent to the scene, automatically, if we have these agreements, say an engine out of Kennebunk, one out of Arundel, and one out of Biddeford or something, that would be done at the same time. As soon as that dispatcher can get that notification out to the other towns, that would be done. A lot of towns are doing this now because, you know, they're short-staffed. And, you know, for being a call company, I don't know how many people I'm gonna get on any day or night.
So Jay, I didn't understand, when I was reading through it, I didn't understand the automatic differentiation part of it.
Yep.
Because you said before that the towns would assess based on what they had available.
Right.
But then does the automatic part of this override that, and they need to, you know?
It's kind of two separate animals. Usually for a mutual aid thing, I can just say to the chiefs, say, hey, I've got your engine on my second alarm for a fire in the port. And, okay, you know, that's fine. The automatic aid is a little more to it as far as, it's still the same thing that they're gonna send probably the same amount of equipment, but it's just, instead of us getting there first and then calling for mutual aid, it's gonna be, the mutual aid will be started automatically.
I got it.
When we get the call.
Got it, thank you. Got it.
And so I've started the conversation with RJ and dispatch about the information that he's gonna need he's gonna be the one inputting this into the computer so that it's available for all the dispatchers just to click on and, once we get there. What I need, you know, because as we build this out, I can't keep going to Kennebunk or Arundel, or it's gonna, as alarms go out far, you know, higher and higher in number, a third alarm, for whatever, I'm gonna be pulling from farther away. And it's what most departments are doing now anyway. So, that's that one, unless anyone else has any questions. So again, to bring up our skilled trainings, in the budget is the 10 hours a week. This coordinator would be tasked with, again, he's not gonna be teaching everything, but he'll be coordinating the different types of trainings, because we do the training with Kennebunk and Arundel, our 3 towns, but we also have another night once a month where we train just in the port. So he'll be kind of pulling all that together, coordinating it, trying to look at it on like your EMS license. Your EMS license, in order to maintain it, you need to have CEHs. You need to go to classes and get continuing ed credits. And then when your 3 years is up, if you have enough credits and enough topics, you get your license renewed. We're not doing obviously anything with any licensing, but we would look at it the same way that we would be offering enough trainings so that in a 2.5 year period, everybody would get the trainings that they need on a continuous basis to kind of be in that same, if there was a licensing, they could get their license. I hope that makes sense.
Is there an incentive for people to do that? There's no salary tied to it, there's no title, there's no extra badge, or is there a measure of having gone through those? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, there are different levels that people can train to. Like I have 2 people in Fire 1 and 2 right now.
Okay.
And that's a class that you would need to have, and it starts in January and ends in June. And that's what they need to be an interior firefighter.
So there's titles and
Yeah.
associated
Yep, yep.
progress and, yeah.
And we do pay for our training. So when people are going to training, we are paying them. So there's another one we can tick off on the recommendations, because the study said to pay our people for training, and we've been doing that since before I got here. Which brings me into the next one, is an adjustment of market wages. I looked around because I'd been here for 5 years and was coming up on 5 years, and I thought, geez, I haven't looked around. So I did, found that we were, I wouldn't say very low, but we were, of Kennebunk and Arundel, we were the lowest. We were paying the lowest hourly rates for the different classifications that we have.
Ballpark percentage when you say lowest.
Well, for the officers, it was much lower, in the 25–30% range.
Wow, that's.
The firefighters, not so much.
Yeah.
Like, I'll pick on Kennebunk, with full-time per diems and a call company, they pay their per diems and their call firefighters the same hourly rate if you're in the same classification. And their classifications have EMS levels that I don't have to have. I have 4 classifications: interior, non-interior, and three, and the officers.
So when you talk per diem, you're talking town employees.
I'm talking per diem, that they're hired to work a 12-hour shift that day.
But they're town employees.
They fall under, they're not full-time town employees.
They would be a town employee.
Yes.
Okay, so that's my question. So
They're not contracted.
they're not a contractor, they're an employee of the town, correct?
Right. No, you're right. Usually with no benefits or anything like that, usually we won't see them, except when they're working. They don't come back to calls or anything like that.
Yeah, my question is so are we setting these rates now so that when whether it's 2 years down the road or whatever it is, that we're not gonna have a kerfuffle with having to pay these employees a higher wage than the volunteers?
No, because I would do the same thing. Like I was saying, Kennebunk, they pay a per diem firefighter that has, let's say, they're just an interior firefighter. They don't have any EMS licensing. Because most towns pay a little, all right, you have a basic, you get a little bit of a bump. You're an intermediate EMS license, you get a little bit bigger.
Land the plane.
So the, on that part is, they're paid the same hourly rate, depending on what classification they fall in, whether it's usually a
Whether
per
it's-
diem or
a volunteer.
a volunteer.
Okay,
Right.
that's what, and the we don't know about the labor pool yet, but anyway, so that you answered my question, that's what I want to know. Thanks.
So there was money in there, that is still in the budget to address that. But one of the other things too with it is, I removed the stipends that the officers were getting, so, because they'll get paid as they do their work anyway. And so then, if no one has any more questions, the next one was developing a mentoring system. We had one kind of unofficially for the last couple of years. When new people would come in, I'd set them up with people in the station where they were gonna be responding from, just to help them along, make sure they would be there to answer any of their questions. Because I was afraid that people might start falling through the cracks if they didn't get their needs met with being in the fire department. So we were already kind of doing that. Late in 2023, we started down a road to make more of a plan. So it's an actual, I'm about to roll out a meeting that the department will have, where you have to be trained. To be a mentor, you'd have to be trained. So it's trained on here's what we're looking for, There's checklists that, and benchmarks that the people have to meet. They'll be going with that. We'll take some time to talk to people, the new people and the mentors, and make sure that we're assigning the right person with the right mentor. And then there's even things in it where if it's not working out between those people, that we can redo it and move them to a different one. So it's a bigger, more, I didn't have anything written down on it. We just kind of did it. Now we have, and it's a pretty large document, but we have what the expectations are of both the mentor and the mentee in the entire process.
That's good.
And the last one was again, on our safety protocols, is reviewing those. They're kind of, some of them are with the SOGs, but some of them are separate, and our safety officer. Currently our safety officer is looking to step down. He's been doing it a long time. And I have somebody in the department already that's taken the necessary courses in order to do it. So we can get that moving as well. One of the things, and it's nothing I addressed in the budget because I felt there were other things that we needed to do instead, but it might be, instead of having one, would be maybe having 2 or 3 safety officers, because again, in the way we operate, I don't know who's available to show up when. So if I had 2 or 3, there's obviously a better chance of one of them being on the scene to do that role.
Yep.
So I have a question.
Sure.
How is your recruitment doing?
It's doing pretty well. I've put a couple new people on recently. I spoke to another person the other day that may be moving to town. He lives in Saco, but through somebody in the department, we got hooked up, and I had the conversation of what we would expect, and he's in the right age group. He's 23 years old. Big kid, so that's a good thing. But again, it's if he moves here. But we're doing pretty well there. Yeah, again, we are getting older. Obviously, I don't do anything anymore to bring the average age down. I'm starting down that other side of that curve, but
Slippery slope.
yeah, we're doing pretty well in this day and age to still be running a call fire department.
Yeah, very good.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Excellent, Chief.
All right, anything else?
Thanks, Jay.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
I just want to thank the chief and the team for all the work.
Yeah,
This has
it's a
been
lot of
really,
work.
really
lot of
helpful,
work.
really great work.
Okay, so the next item is the formation of the Sustainability Committee. And in your packet, you should have a draft of what's been proposed. John and I got together and met, and this is the mission that we had proposed. And at the time, we were trying to decide whether the board would want it called the Resiliency or the Sustainability Committee. That's why there's a question mark. And it's a committee consisting of 7 Kennebunkport citizens working at the direction of the Select Board. Will be a standing committee and will have an advisory relationship to the Select Board and town management. The committee will be required to complete the research and analysis necessary to support the Select Board and town management in making decisions in support of the Climate Action Plan adopted by the Select Board on March 28th, 2024. So before we get into the procedure thing, I would like input, suggestions, or comments on the mission.
I think it's straight and to the point.
Well, we tried to keep it simple.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't overregulate, it doesn't
I have a
over,
few comments.
you know. What?
John asked me if I was okay. I said, I just have a few comments.
That's not a surprise, but go ahead.
Sheila, am I okay for time?
Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, on the, I think one of my comments was, it's a big document, and they're going to be deciding, should the board give some guidance on what part of the actions that we would want them to focus on first? Because they might spend a lot of time, and then they might come back to us the first quarter and we're like, hey, could you work on this other
The
stuff?
answer to your question is yes. John and I had that discussion, and we decided, when we were talking about it, we were trying to decide, are we gonna put all the points in that the board's gonna try to do whatever it is, whatever we decide to do. And so we decided to make it, we recommending to the board that we make it a general description so that we have leeway.
Okay.
And to do, like, as you're saying, that we say, hey, we may say we'd like to do this, this, or this, and they work at the direction of the board.
Yep.
So that was the thinking. Is that right, John? I'm not.
Correct, and
Yeah.
it's kind of implicit of the not stated when it says to do the work necessary to support the board in making the decisions. And if we haven't, directed that to happen, they're really not supporting us. So it's kind of implicit in the words. without
No,
having to lay it
I think
out,
that's
but-
good. Yep, no, I think, and like
But
Mike said, give
we
them
can certainly-
flexibility.
We can certainly tell them, or recommend to them what we'd like to work on first, or what the direction we'd like to go in and so forth. Or we can ask, or we can recommend.
I think we
Oh,
direct, yeah.
Yeah, I always like to call it a recommendation for consideration. So,
Yeah.
that would be us.
With a
It's an offer
direction,
you can't-
with a direction.
It's an offer you can't
However you want to
refuse.
word, however you want to word it. So that's how that came about.
Yeah, and the only other thing I wanted to bring up, maybe not for the summary thing, but just conversation that we had at the last meeting, about having this as a public meeting. And Lori, you had made the comment that we are sort of overburdening our IT and that. So is there I guess my question is, I would think that, I go back to the people that showed up at the meeting, and I think it would behoove us to have this as a public meeting. So is there a trade-off of another committee that doesn't need to be recorded and could go off with minutes? Because there may be more in the, more of the,
Discussion, more discussion than.
yeah, they're further along in their process, and the town is used to that committee, and they know the input and output versus this one. And so, because I do think it's important, and I don't want to lose that, but I do pay heedance to Lori's comment that we're running out of bandwidth, but I think this one's important to record and to have public.
Well, there's certainly going to be quarterly reports from this committee to the select board. So there would be every 3 months, a readout of progress made, and they would receive direction publicly. So this certainly will be a very public-facing meeting in that sense.
But let's take what Mary Beth is saying. One thing that we can do, and probably should do, is when we publicize their, whatever, if they elect they want to meet every other week or every week, whatever it is, they can set their own meeting schedule. But that schedule should be, when they arrive at a time for their meeting, that should be posted. And anybody from the public who would want to attend, just like the planning board, they should be able to attend and listen. And if they're asked, give input. So I think that's what we
And I
think
think
we
they
want.
would be asked. I mean,
Yeah,
sure, absolutely.
exactly,
I'm
so.
comfortable with.
Yeah, so that's the way I would envision it. And then on the quarterly basis, which was Alan's recommendation and Sheila's recommendation, I think it was Sheila's
It
recommendation.
was actually my recommendation, but
Yeah,
no.
but, anyway, it doesn't matter. But I can remember the conversation with Alan, so, on a quarterly, recommendation, that certainly would be, here.
Yeah.
In front of the select board, and certainly an opportunity for the public to weigh in.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Robin has her hand raised.
Okay, sure. Robin?
Yes, hello. I just have a question regarding the town hall committee. If we're giving this consideration to the climate action committee, why can't people, I know you're saying your IT is short, but why can't people just go, see for themselves and, not comment? What is the difference?
I didn't
I
understand
didn't
it.
understand.
I couldn't.
So I think
Robin,
what
you're-
she's saying,
Robin, you're coming through very loud, and
Yeah, we
and
can-
you're almost muffled.
How's that?
Well, you
Is that
can-
better?
No, that's still loud.
Okay. Let me try it. Can you,
Yeah, Dave is-
You go ahead.
yeah, Dave is,
Actually, Mike is.
Mike is,
Go ahead, cover talk.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Robin.
okay, I have to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
better.
Okay, my question is, I like the suggestion of people being able to, see the committees for themselves, and I don't understand why the town hall committee, we're not allowed access to that either, by watching on Zoom, and we don't have to comment, but just to really see where the discussion is, what is the difference?
Okay.
You want to do that?
Get it?
In terms of, I mean, it's a, it's a theoretical question, in terms of what committees go before Zoom and get recorded, and it really is a matter of how much capacity. So right now, we're supporting Selectmen and Planning Board primarily because they both have judicial power, quasi-judicial power. And then we have been supporting the Goose Rock Speech Advisory Committee because there's a lot of people associated with that who don't live here. And we've been supporting Growth Planning Committee because they recommend land use ordinances. And so those have been our primary, along with Zoning Board of Appeals, and that's 5.
I understand that, but the town hall is kind of a big deal and people ask for transparency, and to me, transparency is being able to, listen to the discussion, see the people. I mean, taking minutes is a bit subjective at times, and I appreciate the minutes for sure. But it just seems like we should, because it was so contentious and divided the town, which we don't really want, why can't we just watch the meeting, even if we went and we're not allowed to comment? Like, why can't we see what they said?
Couldn't they develop their own Zoom numbers?
So we're not on Zoom.
We're not on.
It's an in-person meeting.
All right,
Why
well,
can't you be on Zoom? Is my question.
I'm not saying.
So we can do
have to
anything you
comment.
guys want us to do.
No, I mean, I don't think it has to involve all of this. I mean,
Because people meet in person with the consultants is why we're not on Zoom.
so so I guess the second part then is, could we, just like we're thinking with, what were we just talking about? The climate, resiliency, the sustainability. Resiliency Committee. That would be people coming in and watching the committee at work.
but they'd have to be here.
They'd have to be here, just like we said for the Climate Committee. We wouldn't be, because of the bandwidth, we're not going to be broadcasting or taping, but people could have access. I think that's the question on the table, is could we allow people to have access to the Town Hall Committee?
I don't, what's that mean? What do you mean?
Well, for example, we would have, the public would know that the Town Hall Committee is meeting on this time, and if they wanted to come and listen to the Town Hall Committee talk, they could. And just like we said with the Climate Committee, if the committee said, we'll take questions or something from whoever showed up, or input, or not,
Yeah, I think
that's
what
up to the
Robin is
committee.
asking is, rather than have to come here, is there a way?
No.
No, she asked for either.
What she is saying is that if we are going to allow the public to attend the Climate Resiliency Committee, why are we not allowing the public to attend the Town Hall Committee?
Oh, I
That-
didn't understand it that
That's
way.
the
Yeah,
question.
that's the question.
And personally, I was always in support of having those being public meetings, I think, but, so I don't have an answer for that.
No, I don't
Do
either.
they post now what time, when their meetings are and what time? We don't. And where? You don't? Okay. Maybe we should,
No, that's up to the board.
yeah.
I mean,
I don't see why
I'm
not.
okay with John, I don't know how Alan and Sheila feel, and Mike, but I'm out, I'm okay with what John said.
I mean, I don't mind posting. I shouldn't say I don't mind, because I don't do it.
Sheila,
course not.
the question's not posted.
But,
All the time.
you know, how hard is it then to post their schedule? So that people know when they meet and they can go to the meeting?
I don't think it's about the difficulty in posting. So we certainly can post it. I think it's about a committee that's advisory to the board that's working on an internal project and what's the most effective way for them to do that. And so having a public meeting every time you're having a committee meeting at the same time when they're trying to work through subjects can be challenging to have two things going on at once. Was, I think, a concern. But it's up to the board, however they want to handle the meetings, we can do.
Well, can I interrupt for a second, Lori?
Sure.
Hello? Well, I wasn't demanding to go to a meeting, you know, I work, I have my own business, I'm busy. I really did appreciate it being taped. You don't have to have the Zoom person, I mean, I could do that on phone. So even if we could just watch the meetings as they progress and be aware of when they are, like most of us, we don't really want to drive down to North Street and sit there for 2 hours and, you know, bother people. But I would like to know, because it divided our town, and I don't appreciate that, why we can't watch it as it goes as far as it went last time. Because I asked a couple times before you revealed the plan about the town hall, and it was very hard to find out. So I'm just saying, in good grace, I would appreciate it, and I think a lot of people would, if somebody could just turn their phone on and tape it and put it on YouTube or whatever, because we've all adjusted to that, and it's actually better for us to not have to leave our homes right after, you know, it's just, a lot of people are busy, so I just think in goodwill, you should show us the meetings.
So I just want to be clear, it's, you have to have people with mics, people who are talking have to
That's a
be
different-
mic'd.
It's
It's not,
That's a different
not
thing,
easy.
Rob, and I can appreciate the logistics of that are difficult. I think, I would, again, be in favor of having the dates posted and having anyone who would like to observe the committee be welcome to come in and observe the committee. I think that makes
Okay.
perfect sense.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not saying
that'd
that's
be
a
nice.
decision.
I think it aligns with what the climate, the discussion we just went through with the climate committee, and where we're trying to be conscious of resources, right?
Exactly.
And what like Lori Ramble went through the committees that were, you know, that we are making some big decisions on a committee at a meeting, like the planning board or the zoning board of appeals that we are, you know, taping.
So
I'm good.
I would make a proposal that we,
But keep in mind that where we meet, we have limited space.
to the degree that,
I don't think we'll get that many people.
I don't know.
well, if we do, we'll have to meet somewhere else.
we can meet at the town hall.
So, again, I feel this again in the vein of what we are doing with the Climate Resiliency Committee, that we at least consider. I don't know, if there's anything we can do. I do like to have a chance to think about things, so.
Yeah, let's think about it.
All right, so I would ask that we consider the proposition of posting the town hall meetings and making them available for public attendance to those that wish to attend.
Is it possible?
Well, right now, we're trying to finish the climate resiliency thing. So let's do that after we get done with the climate
Very
all right? And then we'll talk about that after that. So I want to get this done first.
Okay.
So,
So the only other question or suggestion I had was, would we put 2 board members on the committee? And the reason why I bring that up is.
okay. Robin, did you hear that?
Yes?
Okay, so we're going to move on now. But we're going to be talking about your suggestion, but not tonight. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. I just think people would just have a little more faith, because people do want to do the right thing for the town.
Okay. Thanks for
Thank
your,
you.
thanks for your comments. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so my only thing on the climate resiliency, there might be two, so I'll start with the first one, is could we maybe entertain having two select board members on? And the only reason I bring that up is because I see this committee as, you know, we're trying to get people with some different viewpoints. Because I want this committee to try to hash through finding that common ground. And so I think if we find two committee members,
I don't think we need
No?
two committee
Okay.
I find that in the past, like, one person from the board is the liaison. That's like I've said there, you're just saying you'd like to have two, and I just think two board members are gonna be distracting these people from doing what they're supposed to be working on.
And it also sets a precedent. Just
yeah.
as this, I would think that would be problematic as well.
okay,
We all have enough on our plates.
yep, no, I'm, okay, I thank you.
Yep.
So that
okay.
brings us to the next thing. Good question. Any other
I
there?
have one more.
Oh, go ahead.
The name, it's a lot.
Okay,
Climate
so it's,
Resiliency Committee,
Keep tripping over it.
CRC,
Okay,
the CRC, that's it.
so
Goes right
that's
on.
why I put in there, is it was either my question mark was, is it a resiliency committee, sustainability? John's
Yes.
point made the other day was, when we were talking, is a good one. Sustainability means keeping the status quo. And it doesn't mean necessarily mean making progress.
Yeah, but resiliency also is what this is focused on, is keeping our town resilient in the face of a changing climate. So I favor the resiliency if we're going to, let's take a vote right now and get
That-
this done with.
yeah, so I would like to just say resiliency committee. It's nice and short and sweet, and because it is resiliency and it's,
I think,
Yeah.
no,
No,
it's
he's-
not. I want climate resiliency, to be honest with you. Come on, guys, this is about the reason we are doing it is we are trying to increase our resiliency to a changing climate. And that's just. the
I
fact.
agree,
If
I agree,
we can't
I agree.
accept that, then that seems kind of strange to me. So, CRC, nice stuff. That's what I would suggest.
I don't mind that.
I don't either. So,
Great, we got a name.
got a name, Climate Resiliency Committee. Okay, on the procedure, so putting this together, it's just Kennebunkport citizens wishing to apply for a position on the committee must complete an information application required for volunteers and submit it to the town human resource director. So what I've asked Yanina to do is to, John had suggested some additional questions to the application. I don't have them with me. Do you have them with you by any chance?
I can have them in a minute.
Yeah, and I'm really suggesting these go to all, not just to this, but they're put on all future.
Yeah.
And they basically, just to summarize, one is just a question of why do you want to participate in this committee? The other is, what do you think you have to contribute to the committee? And the third is, what specifically in your background makes you believe that you will be able to contribute to the committee? I think they're
Any committee,
really
yeah.
good, any committee.
Any committee.
Would want to know those. So, yeah.
But
Well,
I
one other-
also, John, I know you're big into this climate thing. There are people who don't really believe that this is a catastrophe, that, you know, this is coming.
Well, you don't have to believe that.
And what I'm saying is we also want people, I think, with that form of thinking to be on the committee as well. Because we need both sides. We need those.
Well, I don't know, I don't see the sides piece. To me, that would like having someone on the shade tree committee that's into lumber. The
yeah, I think that would
purpose-
be a good idea.
The purpose of this committee, I think we have acknowledged that things are changing. Whether you believe
They've
it's,
been changing for a bazillion years.
oh, honey, but not like this. I just
So
don't
I-
believe that's scientifically true. And so I will take, Sheila, that is not correct.
So I think,
So,
so I think when we were talking about the committee, when we were talking about the plan, one of the reasons that I voted for it was because of the conversation we had around how we were going to form the committee. And my my big point on that was that we had probably one of the largest attendance we've had for any of our topics that we've had in the recent time here. And people expressed views and very nicely, eloquently had different points of view. And I would actually like our committee to have some value of that. It doesn't mean that they're, and so this is where I think we keep going back to this, like, and I'm going to use this word, I don't like it, but I'm going to use it anyways. You know, people are denying or people are not. I actually think we're over that point. I think what we're trying to do is find that ground where we're just saying things are changing. So whatever you want to agree on why it's changing, things are changing.
Right.
And so that's why I kept climbing onto the resiliency part of this plan, because I feel that's the thing that we can all coalesce around. We can all say things are changing, whether we're getting bigger storms or whatever, or you can even argue that the storms aren't getting bigger, but the town needs to do something because we can't keep repairing roads, repairing this stuff, and just keep repeating. I mean, that's the definition of insanity. So let's start fixing things so that we can literally weather storms. And so I would like to have, like what Sheila's saying, that's my vision or my thought about the committee, is that we do have people with points of view and that this committee can hash it out. And this committee then brings forward things that is a representation of our town in total.
So one of the goal strategies that we approved was looking at the possibility of electrifying town buildings and looking at the ROI of electrifying town buildings. Why would it be important to have someone who believed the climate was changing or someone who didn't believe the climate was changing? Why is it important to have those two views on trying to solve the problem of an ROI on electrification of a building?
I'm saying that we don't only have to have people with the views that think that the climate is changing. I'm saying that we just have to take that off the table.
So,
You just have
but
to ask
you,
people.
I'm sorry, but I heard you say that you believe things are changing and that
Okay.
we need to
Okay,
respond.
let's time out, folks. Time out, folks. Time out.
Go ahead.
Okay. So let me just finish what I was going to say about the committee. And then you can argue all you want.
Okay, Chief,
Okay.
bring it back.
So bring it back, okay. So what we said was, we want to have people apply for the position and make this application, and that they'll be reviewed by 2 members of the select board, together with the town manager. They will make the selection of the 7 members. Now, I am not saying one way or the other who should be on it or anything like that. I'm saying people got to work together to make the selection. That's all I'm saying. And so those things will come out then, I'm sure. So that's what I'm suggesting. So, so I even put together a schedule. So I talked to Yanina, and she can have the applications available on Monday. So my proposed schedule is that we post, or we put on the website that the applications are available, and any other way that we can communicate it, whether it's word of mouth or whatever, or tonight, or somebody's watching TV tonight, and that that'll be 4/29, so that'll be the 29th of April, and we'll ask for those applications to be back by the 10th of May, so that gives them almost 2 weeks. It gives them 2 working weeks, anyway, to do it. And then whoever is going to be the 3 people making the selection of these people and evaluation of these people, will do that the following week, 5/13 to 5/17, okay? And then make a recommendation, come to an agreement. This is where Mary Beth or whoever is going to be on them, if it comes to an agreement, who should be on it, okay? And
Everybody that wants to put an application in should.
should
no
put
matter
it,
what.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh,
Absolutely,
absolutely.
no matter what.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking for a board vote on the 25th, the last meeting in May. So it'd be the 25th of May. So that's the schedule I'm proposing. So Monday they'll be available, Yanina promised me, and that and she'll do it, And then we're going to have them returned on the 10th, by the 10th, gives them 2 full weeks. And then the selection, you can take the following week to work on the selection process. And you can, we'll do your recommendation to the board on the 25th,
Sounds good to me.
okay?
Yes.
And then, so this is where your discussion takes place.
Yep.
On who's on a committee.
Yep, yep.
Okay with everybody?
That's okay with me.
Can I,
Okay. Go ahead now, John.
can I nominate Mary Beth and myself to be those 2 people to work with Lori to make the decision?
It's certainly okay with me. Is it okay with you, Alan? And,
Works for
Yeah.
me.
yeah,
I think,
okay with me.
I'm hoping that provides
All right, put your arm up.
no, I don't want to lose
I've
right
been
here.
lifting
I'm going to
weights.
be
Come on,
embarrassed.
buddy.
No. So,
Okay.
I hope that is
That
a
works.
reasonable, thank you, guys, perfect.
So can I have a motion for what I just,
I would like to, can I do the
Go
motion?
right ahead.
Yeah, I would like to move, but Mike, I don't have the dates, so.
okay, no, but,
Whatever.
Would you
Whatever
state
the
it
dates are.
again, and then I can?
so they'll be available Monday, the 29th,
29th?
and then they'll have till the 10th to return them. And then selection that following week, 13th through the 17th.
17th?
And the board will vote on the 25th.
20
You will make a recommendation.
To the board.
You 3 will make a recommendation, and then we'll vote on the 25th.
We'll vote on the 25th.
Vote on the 25th. And so
So moved.
And we're okay with the mission? It's the resiliency committee, we're okay with the mission?
Yeah.
And the procedure, okay. So that's your
So,
motion.
that is my motion, so moved.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay, good. Whew, good.
Get the boxing gloves out.
Okay, we're going to appoint Derek Stevens as the code enforcement officer. And he comes highly recommended by Galen and the staff. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion
here.
to appoint Derek Stevens as the code enforcement officer.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, 5-0. Other business, Mary Beth.
Yes, I would like, so last week, or the week before, Alan took me on a tour of the pier. I didn't really have a good idea or sense of working fishing and lobster pier, so he took me through the dynamics of the pier itself. So I just wanted to thank Alan for spending the time with me to do that. And then
Did he let you feel the bait or?
Yeah, smell the
No.
He wouldn't go in the
No, he told me,
I tried to get her in there.
he told me to stay out of the bait shop because I would smell. I almost started to walk in. He's like, no, you don't want to
Nope,
walk in
nope,
there.
nope.
And then don't step in any puddles. But I knew that from working at a nuclear power plant, so I don't step in puddles in general. But I think my request would be, after the election and when we're looking at, maybe a slower board meeting, I'd like to bring back either, somebody, Eric or somebody, just walk us through the proposal again for the pier. So having, I've lost some sense of what we're actually doing there, and it's just a refresher. Not meant to ask questions in terms of why are we doing this or anything like that, just a info reminder of what hoists were, now I have a different sense of the pier, and I just would like to get refreshed on what we're actually proposing, if that could be possible. And then since, my second thing is, since we're ending the fiscal year, could we, I know Yanina, we were working on the website, I just have sort of lost track, and I just kicked that up because I'm thinking about things that are coming up for the summer season, and we were trying to get stuff done, so if at some point we can just get an update of where we are and, when we think we're going to go live.
Yeah, do you want to give an update now? Sure.
Yeah, I'm happy to give an update on the website. So as you know, we work with Revise. That was our vendor that we chose. Revise basically moved the majority of our documents and pages. As I've stated before, the goal date is to launch the website is July 1st, and we are very much on track for that goal. We are currently on the step of training staff. So I just got an email saying, hey, when can we schedule the staff training to show how this operates, how it works? Simultaneously, we are working with an app group. It's called Document on Demand. And that group is moving all the minutes, all the packets, all the agendas on our website as an addition to the website. The reason we went with the additional app is because if something happens to the website, we will still have that document management system. It's separate from it, but you can access it from the website. And it's so important to us to have that information. So they've been working with that group. He collected all of the packets, minutes, meetings for multiple committees, and moved it to that group of people. So as I said, we are on track. We are trying to train our staff. We're gonna play with it, I would say, within the staff, because we want to make sure it's good and running. And we will launch on July 1st.
Thank you. Great,
Yeah.
great news. Thank you.
Anything else? John?
Almost up.
Nope, I'm good.
I'm good, Mike.
Good.
I'm good.
So one of the things we wanted to update you on is a little project that Dave was working on, and we were successful in getting some funding through York County EMA to put cameras out at Government Wharf. And the goal is so that, we have security at Government Wharf, but also so that people can access the river mouth and see what the weather is like out there. And so Dave has completed that project, and it's now linked to our website, so I asked him to give you a little brief presentation.
So we have a webcam on the mouth of the Kennebunk River, as Lori said. It can be accessed by links on our website, both at the Harbor Master page, like I have up here. Also, the Government Wharf Committee page has a link. So on the Harbor Master page here, it says a webcam showing a live view of the mouth can be found here. So if you click on that link, it takes about 7 or 8 seconds to load. It's buffering the video.
You ought to put a sign to tell people that, because I would have left the page by now.
Oh, look at that.
I can add that text to the page with the link, John.
Please wait, loading or something.
And then
Yeah.
you push the play button here in the lower left-hand corner, and now we're looking at a live view of the mouth of the Kennebunk River and a nice sunset.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Very nice.
That's a great way, that's a speaker.
Yeah.
Very nice. Good.
On the new website, we'll probably be able to embed this on a page on our website, so you won't have to click a link to go to a different place.
That's very nice.
Well, this is a PTZ camera, but the decision has been made that we're not allowing the public to move the camera around.
Good thing.
There's a little issue there, John. I was
Hackers.
gonna
You're
let you
watching.
know about that. but-
Anything else?
Yeah, so I just want to let people know that we will be sending out cards soon to residents who are affected by the new floodplain maps. So the letter of map revision has been accepted. As you know, we have the flood map ordinance change language on the June warrant. And so this card will alert people who are impacted by that as to the date, and that they can then reference a website which will show them the detail, and they can find their property, et cetera. But we are starting that implementation.
Robin has raised her hand again.
Robin?
Yes, I was wondering if you were going to update the new map, because I checked not too long ago and it's the old map, so are you planning to do that so that we can just look on the map?
Yeah, they will be updating it, but we're waiting to get the digital maps from the state, so they no longer send out. We used to get panels of printed maps, and so they sent us a link, but they were only 8.5 by 11 size, so you really can't see that detail, so Galen's waiting to get that additional information.
So that will be on the website, you think?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
And May 2nd, we are planning to do our housing forum with the board and growth planning committee. And then inviting the planning board, you're not gonna be here. But the plan is to have representatives from Genesis, Avesta, and Maine Housing here to discuss affordable housing. So we were collecting questions. We got questions from John and Mary Beth.
You'll have some for me.
And if anybody has any other ones, we just want to give them a chance to absorb the questions and prepare a presentation.
Yep, thank you for that. Thank you for organizing that. It'd be very helpful.
Oh, Yanina has something. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that we advertised for the candidates night that will be on May 14th. So as you know, there are 6 people who are running for 2 seats to be on the select board. So it will be May 14th. It will be here. It will be recorded. People welcome to attend. It's going to be very similar to last year's candidates night. We actually received the request from public for candidates nights. Thus, we are doing it again. If anyone has any questions from the public, please send them ahead of time to Mary Lou Bukovalis, and she will consider those questions. If board has any ideas, please send them to Mary Lou Bukovalis, as she will be the one who will run the.
And you should say that's Graves Library, Mary Lou at
That's-
Graves Library.
That's correct. She's she's director of Graves Library, and she is the one who's putting together questions, putting the night together. I'm helping on the administrative side to advertise, to promote, and to be her if she needs any admin help.
But the format is, everybody gets asked the same question. Is that correct?
That's correct. So everyone will be asked the same questions. All 6 candidates will have to answer
And
the
it's
same
not a
questions.
debate, they just get equal
Yep.
time to...
It's more to for the public to get to know the representatives and to people who run. So it's not political. It's not a debate. It's not up for any discussion. It's more about, here are your candidates, here are your choices. Please get to know them, welcome them, and then make your choice.
And how long is that going to be? How long is the meeting?
So because we have 6 candidates, we put together a time frame of about 2 hours. So there is, last year we did it, it was 2 board members and 2 school board members. This year we decided just to go for the select board, because school board usually does something on their own, and we have a lot of candidates as it is. So we have some time frames. As you remember, last year we gave about 2 or 3 minutes to answer the question. So it will be very similar this time. So it's going to be about 1.5 to 2 hours.
And no questions from the floor. They all have to be sent in.
That's correct. That's why I'm saying if somebody has questions, please send them to Mary Lou Bukovalis. But as I said, the idea is to make it inclusive, to make it welcoming, and to make it get to know your candidates. It's not about politics and debate. So.
Oh, but if someone has an issue that's important to them, certainly it's appropriate
No,
to have that. It's not.
not going to ask questions of individual people. The
No,
quest-
everyone would answer.
They can
Oh,
submit their
they want to
question.
submit them.
But
Oh, I'm
they
sorry.
have
I
an issue
misunderstood.
that's important to them.
They can send
wanna
it to
see
Mary
what
Lou.
the- Yeah.
Send it right to Mary Lou.
Yeah, and I think a lot of candidates are very approachable. A lot of them always here, so they can always come, stop by, and ask these questions too.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
We want to make it very,
Yeah,
friendly
sure, and informative.
and informative.
Non-combative.
Non-combative. That comes soon enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's a lot of love here. That's it.
Thanks.
That's it.
Okay, town warrant, authorize the town warrant.
So move,
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
move to adjourn.
Move. All those in favor? Jeez.
I was thinking